All right, good morning, everybody. It is Saturday, October 9th. Welcome back to EMPM. That stands for Engineering Major, Philosophy Minor, and this is the channel where you can get a working aerospace engineers on topics pertaining to engineering, philosophy, politics, various other political and cultural issues. And I know my hair looks like crap, and I haven't really fully woken up yet, but we got to talk about some stuff that my buddies sent me this morning via text. Two things. One thing we're going to talk about is how certain Republicans, just for some reason they want to toe the liberal establishment, the line of the liberal establishment. They want to give ammunition to radical leftists basically to say, oh, well, look at this. A Republican said this, so therefore, all conservatives must think like this. And, oh, look at this measured Republican who's just going exactly along with tyranny and, elimination of rights and elimination of health privacy and obsessed with public safety and just complete cowards. So the first thing we're going to talk about right here is my boy Mitt Romney. So this was published on August 27th, 2021. I didn't see this until now. I'm sort of surprised that maybe this was talked about, on the Daily Wire and other conservative media sources, but for some reason I didn't get it. But let's read this headline. Mitt Romney to unvaccinated. Your liberty affects my health. Really? Mitt, are you vaccinated? Why don't you just go out and get vaccinated? Here's the steps that I want Mitt to take. 1, resign. Then go get vaccinated. And then 2, leave us the hell alone. How about that? And in that way, my liberty, whatever I want to do, can't affect your health at all. How about this, Mitt? How about you stay home? How about you lock down? How about you practice social distancing, et cetera, right? How about you do all this stuff? Instead, what Mitt wants to do is come out and say crap like this because, he wants the shorter line at Starbucks. He wants to be able to ride on an airplane with not a lot of people on there. He wants to be able to, go out and about and go to the gym and go talk to people and meet with his family on Christmas and do all this stuff. But no, you and me, our liberty affects his health, even though he's vaccinated. Does this thing even work? Will I get banned off YouTube for even asking that question? If you guys believe, when I say you guys, I mean Mitt and, all these other rhinos around, do you guys believe this works or not? Because if you believe it works, then it doesn't matter what I do anymore. You get the vaccine. You talk to your doctor. You get the vaccine, and you then go live a happy, merry life and leave the rest of us the hell alone. That's all we want. But no, we can't do that, right? Mitt's got to come out. And now, what do you think is gonna be, the argument for years to come on the side of the radical left? Oh well, Mitt Romney, the moderate Republican, came out and said, liberty affects my health. So it must be true that your liberty does affect my health too. And now what we should do is we should just mass imprison everybody, stop everyone from traveling and, treat everybody like they're a major personal public health risk and that they're filthy and unclean and they need to be washed. And what does being washed mean? It means getting taken out of polite society. You get fired from your job, and the illegal immigrants can just run across here without having to get checks and get access to all the social welfare programs that you paid for with your tax money all this time. But no, you're going to get, if you're in the military, you'll get dishonorably discharged. If you're at your job, you'll get fired and never be able to work in your industry again. And all that money that you went to pay for these social programs for guys like Mitt Romney to get a salary and for illegal immigrants to come over here and, get access to all these programs, you're not going to get any of that money back. You're screwed. Have fun in the gulag. So, I know that I'm using extreme language here, but I'm upset, and there's other reasons why I'm super upset. And, the main reason for that is because I know a lot of people that I work with. And if you're an engineer, you know a lot of people too, who are at major threat for their jobs being over. And this is a topic for a different video, but you guys got to realize that in a field like engineering, especially if you're working for, one of these big, larger aerospace companies, if you get fired with cause from here, that's career ending. That's not just, oh, now I'm going to go pick up another job in aerospace. No, because the first thing they ask you is if you got fired. They ask you if you got fired for cause. And then, of course, every single friggin' company out there just cowering to Joe Biden's executive order. So you can't get hired anywhere anyway. You know, guys like Mitt Romney, he's an absolute coward. You know, and this is pathetic. You know, let me tell you what a man who stands up for freedom and liberty and justice and who is not a coward does. A man who is not a coward goes out even though he knows that there's a virus out there. He works hard. He travels. He makes sure to pursue excellence in his life regardless of what's going on. And you know what? If he gets sick, he accepts the consequences and he doesn't go around trying to intentionally infect people, just stays at home, chills out, does what he needs to do to get better, and then he goes back out and gets back to work. You know, that's what men do. Instead, we have, you know, a society run by guys like Mitt Romney and Joe Biden. So let's look at this other clip from this. It's actually a CNN clip, but I'm watching it on Crowder here. Let's listen to what Leanna Wen has to say. You know, you guys think that I'm being extreme about you know, my video I posted last night where, you know, it shows, you know, a big, strong man just choking out, you know, a petite woman at will while his friend, you know, tries to subdue the woman as well. Just disgusting stuff. And you guys think this won't happen in the U.S. Let's listen to what Leanna Wen has to say.
I believe. Talking
We need to start looking at the choice to remain unvaccinated the same as we look at driving while intoxicated.
What? We have to look at the choice to remain unvaccinated like we look at driving while intoxicated? Hey, Dr. Leanna Wen, did you know that just because you might be unvaccinated doesn't automatically make you sick? Just like if you go out to a bar, it doesn't automatically make you drunk. And, you know, what happens to people who drive while under the influence? Well, if their alcohol content is above a certain level, they will go to jail that night. Now, how long do they typically stay in jail? Well, it's usually just one night. So that's what you want to do. You want to jail people just for going outside and without being unvaccinated. By the way, how are you going to prove that, right? We got this nice little thing called a breathalyzer and also, you know, various different metrics to determine whether or not you're intoxicated so that you can so that the officer of the law has, you know, can actually provide evidence and proof as to why you're being detained, right? This is called guilty or innocent until proven guilty. What's Leanna Wen want? She wants guilty until proven what? It doesn't matter if you're proven innocent after you're found guilty. Why? Because you get punished when you're found guilty. And with such a nice little arbitrary metric as unvaccinated, just walking around outside, just driving, right? Doesn't that mean that everyone should just get detained and then should have to show their papers while after they're detained? But what does it matter then? You know, but this is what communists want. And, you know, you just come here and read the Gulag Archipelago and you see this is the exact kind of crap that happened. You know, before you know it, well, let me take a step back because I'm going kind of fast. For those of you guys who watch CNN, do you guys really believe this? Do you guys really believe that this is what should happen to your fellow citizens? And by the way, it's not just going to happen to your fellow citizens. It's going to happen to you. Okay? Imagine what the world would look like if every time you wanted to go outside, you had to prove to someone that you are vaccinated. Now, I get that that's somewhat of an unrealistic situation, at least for now. But you bet that when these ideas get offered up to the federal government, you know, what do you think Joe Biden's going to say? Oh, yeah, we're putting together a special a task, a force. We're putting together a force so that it's a new federal program, organization that will go around and determine whether or not everyone is vaccinated outside. Good night. And then Joe Biden is going to, you know, go on his jolly way, not answering any questions, and the White House feed is going to, you know, cut off before he can botch his speech any worse than that. And then you are going to get arrested every time you want to go outside if you don't have your vaccine card. That's what happens. Let's listen to what else she has to say.
You have the option to not get vaccinated if you want, but then you can't go out in public. Because when you go out in public, you have the potential of infecting other people with a potentially deadly disease.
Oh, wow, look at that. I think that I'm acting extreme, and then she says, well, you just shouldn't be allowed to go out in public. Okay, Leanna, wake up, Like we live in the real world here, right? You, if you really believe this, like if you really think this, think about the policy that you got to put in place in order to implement it. This is what typically happens on the radical left is, it's just not completely thought through about how it's actually going to work. And then when it comes down to actually implementing it, you realize that all it really means is that you have to use extreme force on normal, everyday people who may not even be guilty of the things that you think they're guilty of, and they get punished for it. So cool. That's fun. Yeah, you just can't go outside. Well, I mean, just because we're unvaccinated doesn't mean we're just because a person is unvaccinated doesn't make them sick. And even if they are sick, it doesn't mean that they're going to go around intentionally trying to cough on people, intentionally licking their hands and touching doorknobs and putting their hands on other people's faces and, trying to stuff their snot into other people's mouths, right? I mean, just this is, we're in a Soviet-style culture of suspicion where we think everyone around us is intentionally trying to do us harm. And when you believe that everyone around you is intentionally trying to do you harm, of course you have the incentive to punish that behavior, right? Of course you do. So everyone who watches CNN and thinks that I'm just like a crazy conspiracy guy talking on the internet, that's totally fine. But just think about this, dude. Is this what you guys really want? Is this what you guys really believe? That your friends, because this doesn't just apply to the random person, the random conservative from the farm who's a conspiracy theorist on the street. No, this applies to your friends, your family, your loved ones, your husband, your wife, your kids. Does Leanna Wen even have kids? Well, we'll watch this and then we'll look.
Potential.
You can choose to drink in private if you want, but if you get behind the wheel of a car and can endanger other people, there is an obligation by society to prevent you from doing that. So I think what President Biden did today is exactly right to say that the vaccinated should not have to pay the price for the so-called choices of the unvaccinated anymore.
So-called
Although,
choices.
to your point, Chris, I definitely wished that he had also announced some type of proof of vaccination.
Oh my gosh, it's just disgusting. That's so disgusting. I mean, she's. Well, let's pull her up again. Let's just pull up a pause position right here. You got Chris Cuomo right here who's just nodding along. Yeah, exactly. We need to punish these people because if all those unvaccinated people go around and they're infecting the other unvaccinated, then they'll infect. Well, they could infect us too, but we're at low risk, and we need to punish them. We need to punish them. Send them to the camps. Send them to the gulag. Put them out of society. Get them out of their jobs. Guys, this is sick. I'm going to ask you again, and I've said it like 3 times already. If you watch CNN, do you really believe this stuff? Is this what you really believe? That everyone around you is just out to get you? That everyone around you might not be vaccinated, so they're a threat to you, even if you're vaccinated? Is that what you really believe? You guys got to go watch Jordan Peterson, because he talks a lot about if you really believe in something, you will act it out, right? So if you really believe in this, you're going to want to go act that out. You're going to want, like in Australia, cops to come by people's houses. Are you vaccinated? Show us your card. And then if you're not, take you off to jail. Who cares? Get in your personal space. Violate every single other, COVID protocol. Get in someone's face, take them off to jail. And you know what? While we're taking all these people off to jail, they're sitting in jail and they're not really doing anything. Well, why don't we set up collective farms? That'll be good. Why don't we have the taxpayer pay for a bunch of farm equipment? We'll just place it out in a field, and we'll just make these people farm. And then when there's famines and when there's issues with supply chains and stuff, well, we'll just blame it on them because they're not working hard enough, and they decided that they weren't going to get vaccinated. Or perhaps here's one: they decided that they were going to get vaccinated. They just didn't want to tell you. And so now it doesn't matter, right? Or maybe they misplaced their papers, or maybe something got, it was in a backpack and it got stolen, or maybe it flew out of the window of their car when they were driving away from the clinic, whatever it might be, right? If you sacrifice innocent until proven guilty for just guilty, then there is no such thing as guilt and innocence. That's what Solzhenitsyn talks about in his book, and you will get punished. And then what'll happen too? This is what's so dangerous about this. This is what I'm harping on in a bunch of my videos. What's going to happen is you, CNN watcher at home, are going to watch this, and you're going to be like, yeah, I agree with that. They just, we just want to help people. We just want to help the vaccinated be even more safe than they already are. So yeah, they'll just spend, a night in jail and it'll be okay. And then they'll go out and get vaccinated, And yeah, my neighbor, oh, I'm not sure if they're vaccinated. I better call the Cheka, I better call the MVD to come investigate. And then, 10 years down the road, you haven't seen your neighbor in 10 years. And then, they all of a sudden, 80 years from now, when you're an old person, when you're in your 60s or 70s or whatever, they find a mass grave and they come to you and they say, hey, this is, wasn't this person your neighbor? Like, don't you remember this person? And like, oh yeah, I remember that person. And then they're like, oh yeah, they were just found in a mass grave. They were, summarily executed or died from famine. And what are you going to say? You're going to say, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen to them. I didn't know. Oh, I was just doing my job to, the Supreme Leader, Father Joe, and reporting on my neighbors. I was just doing my job. Yeah. Guys, this is sick. This is really sick to me. I don't believe in this at all. You should not have to prove whether or not you underwent a personal, a choice for a personal medical procedure to anyone other than yourself. You shouldn't even have to tell your family. And if your family wants to say that you can't come around if you don't tell them, then look at that. Guilty. You're guilty right away, even if they don't know. We tyrannize each other, man. Because Leanna Wen, I've been complaining about this for a minute. Leanna Wen can come out and she can spout all this crap or whatever. But the question is, are you going to enforce this on your neighbors? Are you going to enforce this on your loved ones? Are you going to lock your kid up when they have a cough and you don't know what it is? You're going to take them, they're going to stick a friggin' thing up their nose to find out if it's COVID. Then you find out it's COVID and you just, you lock them away. Or, you force them to get inoculated with something. I don't even know what I can talk about. Anyway, guys, you got to think about this, because it's not about me either. I'm just a random guy. You guys got to think about who you want to be, what you believe, what you're willing to do, how far you're willing to go, what you're willing to ignore. Because I'm telling you, it's your freedom too. It's not just mine. It's not just people who won't disclose whether or not they're vaccinated or people who, are not vaccinated. It's not just their freedom. It's yours. Because just wait until your neighbor informs on you. Because, maybe you let a tree grow too far over onto their yard and it's dropping stuff on their yard. And, they are like, oh, you need to trim that tree. And you said, oh, well, I don't have time to trim that tree. And they're like, okay, well, maybe, I guess that must mean that you're unvaccinated. So I'm just going to call the police. Turns out you lost your vaccine card and then you're in the gulag too. You can't travel. You can't go outside. You're going to get choked out by, the Australian police officer. Get wielded around like an instrument, a symbol to the masses that you shall obey. So, whatever, man. Think about it, and we're gonna be back here, obviously with more content. But I had to get this out because I'm riled up, dude. This isn't fun stuff. This isn't cool stuff to watch or see. This is really despicable. Authoritarian, tyrannical language that is coming out of these people. And you know what? Half the country looks at this and they love it. They love the idea of wielding power against you.